There's a question you've probably never said out loud, not to anyone, maybe not even to yourself, but it's there, somewhere underneath everything, quiet and a little embarrassing to admit. Would he choose me? If he had the option, if someone else came along with more time, more treats, a bigger yard, a better schedule, would he still choose me? The answer is yes. Not because I'm saying something comforting, not because every dog owner deserves to feel good about themselves, but because your dog has already answered that question. He answers it every single day in 6 specific behaviors that most people walk right past without ever understanding what they're actually seeing. These aren't grand gestures. They aren't dramatic moments of rescue or loyalty. They are quiet, daily, almost invisible things. And together they form the most complete answer to that question that science has ever been able to give. The first behavior is one you've probably noticed and immediately explained away. He follows you, not your partner, not your kids, not the person who feeds him when you're traveling. You. When there are multiple people in a room, his eyes track you. When you get up, he gets up. When you settle, he settles, usually within a few feet of wherever you land. You've probably told yourself it's because you feed him, or because you're the one who trained him, or because he's just used to your routine. But research published in the journal Behavioral Processes tells a different story. When dogs were placed in rooms with multiple people, including strangers who offered food and play, they consistently returned to and oriented toward their primary attachment figure. Not the most generous person in the room, not the most exciting, their person, the one they had chosen. Researchers call this selective proximity. It is the behavioral expression of a preference that runs deeper than habit, deeper than conditioning, deeper than reward. He follows you because when given a choice, you are the one he chooses to be near. He doesn't follow everyone, he follows you. That distinction is the whole answer. The second behavior happens in a moment most people misread entirely. You're in a room with other people, maybe a gathering, maybe just family, and at some point you notice when he's been watching you, not anyone else. Not the person currently making the most noise or holding the most interesting snack. You. This is called preferential gaze, and it has been documented in dozens of studies on canine social behavior. Dogs in multi-person environments show a measurable tendency to look at their primary attachment figure more frequently, for longer durations, and with a distinct quality of attention that researchers describe as monitoring. Not need-based looking, I want something from you, but relationship-based looking, you are the one I keep track of. There is a study from Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest that found something remarkable. When dogs were shown images of their owners alongside images of strangers, their brain activity, measured using non-invasive EEG, showed differentiated responses. The owner's face produced activity patterns associated with emotional recognition and social bonding. The stranger's face did not. Your face is neurologically distinct to your dog. It is encoded in his brain in a category of its own. And when he looks at you across a crowded room, he is not just looking at a familiar person. He is looking at the person his brain has reserved its deepest recognition for. He watches you because to him, in any room, you are the most important thing in it. The third behavior is the one that happens when something goes wrong. A loud noise, an unfamiliar situation, a moment of uncertainty, a new place, a new person, something he can't quite read. And before he does anything else, before he decides whether to be afraid or curious or calm, he looks at you. Animal behaviorists call this social referencing. It was first documented in human infants, the way a baby confronted with something new turns to its caregiver's face to read the situation before deciding how to react. The caregiver's expression is more informative than anything else in the environment. If the caregiver looks calm, the world is probably safe. If the caregiver looks alarmed, the world probably isn't. Dogs do this with their owners. Exactly, precisely in the same way. A study from the University of Milan found that dogs facing an ambiguous object, something they'd never seen before, that could be threatening or harmless, looked to their owner's face significantly more than they looked at a stranger's face in the same room. They were using you as a reference point, a guide, an interpreter of reality. And here is what that means. He doesn't look to just anyone when the world gets uncertain. He looks to you. Of all the people available, you are the one whose read on the situation he trusts. You are the one whose calm makes him calm, whose confidence makes him confident. That look, the one he gives you when something makes him uncertain, is one of the most complete expressions of trust one living being can offer another. He is saying, "Tell me how to feel about this. I trust your answer more than anything else I have." The fourth behavior is one that happens while you're asleep. Researchers who study dog sleep patterns have documented something that consistently surprises people. Dogs who sleep in shared spaces with their owners, whether in the bed, on the floor beside it, or simply in the same room, show different sleep architecture than dogs who sleep alone. Their sleep cycles are partially synchronized with their owners. They shift into lighter sleep when the owner shifts. They settle more deeply when the owner is still. This is not coincidence. It is not simply that they respond to movement and noise. It is something more specific, like a biological attunement to the rhythms of the person they are bonded to. Their nervous system is, even in sleep, quietly calibrated to yours. But here's the part that answers the question. When dogs are given a choice about where to sleep, when the whole house is available, when multiple people are present, they choose their primary attachment figure space. Not the most comfortable location, not the warmest spot, the location that belongs to the person they have chosen. Your side of the bed, your chair, the rug in front of your desk. Every night when he settles into your space, he is making a choice. The most vulnerable choice any living creature makes. Where to be unguarded, where to be unconscious, where to place the most defenseless version of himself. And he places that version of himself, night after night, in the space that belongs to you. That is not habit. That is not convenience. That is the clearest declaration of trust and preference that his biology allows him to make. The fifth behavior is something that happens when you've been apart. Not the greeting. Everyone notices the greeting. Something that happens just after it. When the initial explosion of joy settles and he is simply near you, watch what he does with his body. He presses against you, not just close against, the full weight of his flank against your leg, or his head heavy in your lap, or his body curved into yours on the couch. This is called contact-seeking behavior, and it is distinct from ordinary proximity. It is the drive to eliminate the remaining physical distance between two bodies. Studies on oxytocin, the neurochemical most associated with social bonding and attachment, have found that physical contact between dogs and their owners produces measurable increases in oxytocin in both species simultaneously. The bond is not one-directional. It is a loop. His body touching yours releases bonding hormones in him, and in you, at the same time. But more telling than the chemistry is the specificity of who he seeks contact with. Research on contact behavior in dogs consistently shows that dogs in multi-person households show preferential contact seeking toward their primary attachment figure. More body contact, longer duration, more initiation. When he leans into you after you've been apart, when he presses his weight against you as if trying to close the last possible distance between you, he is not just relieving his own tension. He is choosing you for the most intimate physical expression of connection he has. And he chooses you specifically every time. The sixth behavior is the one that happens at the very end of the day. You're tired, you're quiet. You're not doing anything interesting or offering anything remarkable. You're just there, on the couch, or at your desk, or lying in bed with your eyes half open and your phone face down. And he comes. Not because there's food, not because you called him, not because anything in the environment has changed. He just comes and puts himself near you. Sometimes his head on your knee, sometimes just a warm weight settling beside you. Sometimes just being in the same room, in your orbit, present. Animal behaviorists have a term for this kind of behavior: spontaneous affiliative contact. It is contact initiated without any obvious trigger, without any instrumental motivation, without any clear reward on offer. It is closeness for the sake of closeness. Presence for the sake of presence. And in studies examining who dogs seek this kind of contact with, the answer is consistent and unambiguous. Their person, the one they have chosen, not the most available person, not the most interesting person. The specific human being their nervous system has identified as primary, as important as the center of their social world. When he comes to you at the end of a long, ordinary, unremarkable evening, when he settles beside you for no reason other than that you are there and he wants to be near you, that is the behavior of a being who has made a choice. He has made that choice every day of his life with you, and he keeps making it. So here's what those 6 behaviors are. Put plainly, he follows you because he prefers you. He watches you because you are the most important thing in any room. He looks to you when the world gets uncertain because your read on reality is the one he trusts. He sleeps in your space because that is where he chooses to be at his most vulnerable. He presses against you because the distance between your bodies is something he wants to close. And he comes to you again and again at the end of ordinary evenings for no reason except that you are you. That is not a dog doing what dogs do. That is a dog who has chosen a person. That is a dog who, given the entire world as an option, comes back to you every single day without being asked. You were always the answer to that question. You just needed to know where to look. Does your dog do any of these? Which one surprised you most? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear about the one that made you stop and actually think. And if you want to know what happens in your dog's brain during the exact moment he sees you walk through the door after a long day, that video is right here. Don't miss it.